Happy Monday. This is J Prater from J Prater Consulting, and today I am sharing my first international guest for Motivation Monday. Hajduk Stowell will be joining us. She has been writing about creativity, self-care, and simplicity over at Bliss Beyond Naptime since 2006, and is a founder of Mama Bliss Coaching School, a 12-week life and creativity coaching training program that has certified over 30 moms in 8 countries so far. Kathy lives in the sleepy mountain town of Nelson, British Columbia, where she's a triple latte-fueled mom to 2 kids, a 13-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy, wife to a rock-climbing obsessed engineer, and the special person to their blonde wiener dog named Angel, who I got to meet at the end of our conversation. I don't think we recorded that part, though. But please join me for this conversation. Kathy and I are going to talk about how to sustain your motivation over years and years and years. She's been blogging since 2016, has a lot of experience. We're also going to talk about finding your bliss. Yes, you are still going to be uncomfortable. You're still going to have things that you're not going to like to do when you're working, even in your dream job. But how do you know what your threshold should be? So join me for this special coffee chat with Hajduk Stowell. So good morning, Kathy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing wonderful, honey. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And I have to say, Kathy is our first international guest. Yay!
Ooh, really? Ooh,
yes, you are.
All of a sudden.
She's joining us for British Columbia this morning. So thank you so much for having us, or being here with us.
The royal us.
Well, let me ask you, Kathy, if I were meeting you in your quaint little hometown this morning and I were joining you for a coffee, what would you be ordering for yourself this morning?
Well, first of all, I would invite you to my house because I feel like I make the best coffee on the planet.
Awesome.
And what I would make for both of us is a triple shot breve. So, yeah, I have 3 of those a day, and it's obviously 3 shots of espresso, and we actually have a local coffee roaster called Oso Negro. And breve is like a latte, except made with cream. And I'm crazy for cream. I'm cream crazy. So much so we actually got a cow so I can get like premium.
That is brilliant. I love it. Oh, that's great. And we have cows as well for beef. So we have beef cows and we have chickens. So I definitely can relate to you on that homesteading front. Most
I know. Good quality food for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into the question at hand. So, Kathy, I've been asking a lot of people, what motivates you in your business or your career? So if I pose that question to you, what comes up for you today?
Oh, just organically, my kiddos come up. I have 2 kids, and they go to the local Waldorf school here, and it's pretty sweet. It's only 5 minutes from our house, but you know, when I think of when they need to stay home because they're sick, or it just sometimes feels like they're never at school because of all the professional holidays and PED days. So what motivates me is to keep things chugging along and keep the business growing so I can afford the option to stay at home and work from home if they need to be home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kathy, I'm curious, how long have you been working with the Mama Bliss Coaching School?
Exactly. Well, it started when my daughter was actually a toddler, and she's 13 now. In terms of, that's when the journey began. So it started off as a creative outlet, like we were discussing before we hit record. Our hometown Calgary is 8 hours away from, we call it the boonies. So my blog was an avenue to keep the grandparents informed of how the kids are growing up. And it just became a big love of mine. The homesteading piece was documenting too, our foray, the city slickers, raising Dexter cattle and getting into permaculture. And it just became apparent. And actually that's another motivation. I remember back then, like, I can never stop blogging. I love the way it connected me with moms like myself, really into that sort of adventure. And I was hyper crafty at the time. But the writing, expressing myself, and the way the blogging exercise really brought to my attention what my priorities are and what my values are. I had to configure a way to actually monetize. So that too is a big motivation for me with my business, is so that I can continue this really cool opportunity that these times present moms who want to be at home close to their kids. So so that blogging began back in 2006. And I opened up Mama Bliss Coaching School 5 years ago. So that's my 12-week coaching training program for moms who also want to stay home coaching other moms in creativity and self-care.
Yeah, very good. And I love that concept, that idea of coaching other moms to be coaches, because I think it is very neat. And I one of my other guests coming on for this series actually talks about that idea of moms creating their own space and people as a whole creating their own type of careers that work on their schedule within their life boundaries and that type of thing. So talk to me how it is working and helping other moms start their business. Talk me a little bit talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty magical. And I just say that because that word pops up because I've had the great honor of getting to meet some of my clients face to face. And it happens more often than you would imagine, because I am like the world's hugest homebody. Like we were saying, I never like to leave Nelson. So often it begins, they've been following my blog for a while. There's of course a questionnaire process, and I can't help but ask, how did you hear about me? And often they're like, well, I've been reading your blog for a while. So there's something, and I encourage all my clients just to be themselves, write like you talk, let your weird mama flag fly or whatever. Because like I teach my kids, no matter what, 30% of the world's gonna love you, 30% not gonna be crazy about you, and 30% are gonna be indifferent. And the other, whatever, 3%, like who cares about them? So often there's something about me that lures them, or about my Mama Bliss coaches that I train. There's this chemistry, and it is just like falling in love in a certain extent. They're just like, I trust this person enough that they had the skills and experience wherever they're feeling they're stuck, to hold my hand and kind of support me to the next step. So it is, I often use the analogy of being a midwife or doula. I'm also very passionate about birth. And and actually a lot of my testimonials is like, she helped me breathe through, the times of challenge. So that's very much how the experience works. It's just connecting, having that face-to-face time or phone-to-phone, ear-to-ear time, and just breaking down the goal, looking at the goal of where they want to be. And my whole approach is based on Kaizen Muse, which is a creativity coaching philosophy and Japanese philosophy of taking tiny steps towards a goal. So sometimes it takes, a third or second pair of eyes or a second heart into looking at what those little baby steps are, and just having that accountability and the support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very familiar with Kaizen. Before this, believe it or not, my background is in manufacturing. I was in training and development in manufacturing, and Kaizen is such a thing in manufacturing. So it's so funny that Kaizen is something that goes across all industries. It's something that can be super relevant to a lot of different industries, everywhere from creativity to manufacturing. So very cool, that connection.
No kidding, no doubt. Super cool.
So a really interesting question that comes up for me, Kathy, is that, you've been in this game for a while. 2006 is when you started blogging. I mean, reasonably to say, before blogging was the beast that it is now, before everybody was doing it. And then also you've had Mama Bliss for the past 5 years now. And so talk us through that idea of building your motivation for long-term goals. How do you How do you continue on in your motivation as you're dealing with these things that may take a lot of time, or initiatives that may span, more than just the short 1 month, 3 months, 6 months time that you work through?
For sure. Well, it's to stay motivated and to keep the momentum going, even when there's some stuff that's just like, oh, I really don't want to do this. I think of my mom. She always said, Kathy never does anything she doesn't want to do. So that's partially true. So, but to put it in a nice way, I like to follow my bliss in terms of if there is huge resistance, then I like to shine the light on that. Because if it's going to be just this, what are you setting yourself up for? I look forward to Mondays. Like, I just love everything I do. Yeah. Every little aspect of what my business entails, I enjoy it. Some of it I don't love with a big capital L. So those are the sorts of things I delegate. Yeah. Or kind of do less than perfect, and then I hire someone to come and get a meter. So to help me stay motivated, the whole Kaizen piece, of course, I daydream a lot, and then I break it down. I'm all about the seasons. A lot that I teach, I cannot help but go with the analogy of trimesters and the birthing and the whole, the birthing process, gestating your dreams, But I look at the big picture, and then I both consciously and subconsciously, I guess, put the systems into place and the pieces into place, and making sure that it's actually setting me up for what I do want to strive for. So, like often I just have to rein myself in, because I do get very excited, and I am an idea machine. But usually about quarterly, I look at, is this staying simple? Because as soon as it gets overcomplicated, then that's when the burnout can creep in. And if burnout happens, and that burnout's a very serious thing. I never actually reached that point, but I feel my body and my emotional, wellness, it's a good indicator if things are creeping up to that. Yeah. So then I'm really good at just putting the brakes on, taking a little mini sabbatical, keeping it low key, revisit. And actually that's when I often have to call in my own business coach and just say, make it more simple, because this isn't sustainable.
Yeah. And I like the idea that you're talking about following your bliss, but also realize there's going to be moments of discomfort there. So having your own threshold and understanding, there's going to be parts of it that you don't like, but understanding what your threshold is. And then when you get there saying, okay, I need help. That makes a lot of sense. Most definitely. All right. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for so many nuggets of wisdom. I'm sitting here just writing all kinds of things down. So I could talk to you, for, if we had enough time, we could make this a much longer conversation. But go ahead, for the people that are watching this video back, go ahead and tell us how they can find you if they want to learn more about you or about Mama Bliss Coaching.
Absolutely. So by all means, Google Kathy Stowell, Mama Bliss, and you're just going to be so sick of my mug popping up. So definitely good old Google. Bliss Beyond Naptime is my home base, blissbeyondnaptime.com. And if you look up in the nav bar, there's a freebie section. So there's about 3 freebies there that perhaps something there might entice you. And that would be a great welcoming into my world.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Motivation Monday today, Kathy. And I hope you have a great week.
You too, honey. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.